Everybody, I'd like to call this Wednesday, August 14th, 2024, William Hilton Parkway Gateway Corridor Independent Review Advisory Committee meeting to order. First on the agenda, we've got the approval of the minutes from June 12th, 2024. Can I have a motion?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
Sure.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify approval by raising your right hand. So moved. All right, Sean, we will move on to unfinished business, update on project progress.
Thank you, sir, committee, guests in the audience here. Since we last met, council held two workshops and then an action meeting related to the Gateway Corridor project in that segment, in which Lockmuir provided information to help make that decision-making process move ahead. And so the balance of the work from Lockmuir was to present findings for impacts downstream, so beyond the Gumtree intersection on the business route, and then on the Cross Island route down through to include Seapine Circle. And so that's the last bit of information that was in the contract for Lockmuir. They're going to present that today. We've also included a copy of the full report, and we've got hard copies for the committee. It was posted as part of our online packet, so folks have access to it there. At the end of the meeting, I'm going to ask the committee to consider accepting the final report so that I can bring it forward to town council and then complete the work with Lockmuir as they've completed the scope that was approved by the committee and town council. Thank you, sir. I'm going to turn it over to Nate to go through the next bit.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Mayor Perry, members of the committee, thank you all once again. I know it's been a few weeks since we last met, but we're thrilled to be here and to be able to share the final findings of the corridor study. And to help me do that, we have Kate Swinford, Michelle Romine, and Lauren Jackson. All those names should look familiar to you. They've played very key integral roles in the successful completion of the project, and they're online to answer any questions that might come up during our presentation. The agenda items I would like to cover today is to give you a final progress project update, followed by, since there has been such a length of time since our June 12th committee meeting, just want to give a very brief refresher of the downstream impacts for those intersections beyond Gumtree Road and Cross Island Parkway, just to understand what the impacts would be if the modified alternative from the DOT were implemented. And that would be good to know, as that is going to be led or followed up by some mitigation solutions that we're going to present to you to be able to have for future planning purposes should the town desire to go in any one of those routes. And then just a few slides summarizing the key points from our final traffic operations and safety report that Sean alluded to, and we provided to you all last Friday.
Nate, before you get into things, I'd like to make a statement. I don't know whether to laugh or to cry, but I think that there are a lot of things that we spend a lot of time on, and the town decided to go ahead after that work, that July 28th meeting, with a study that wasn't completed, and sort of pulling the rug out from under us. So I don't know what the use is of this meeting. I think that there are lots of things that are not right with this project. I won't go into the details, but I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting because I do not see the use for it.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, signify by raising your right hand. Motion fails. Continue.
If it's even, the motion fails?
Yes.
Just to summarize what we've been working on since we last met on June 12th, as Sean mentioned, there was 2 milestone meetings with town council, one being the workshop on the June 17th and then June 20th. We participated here on June 17th. The team listened virtually on June 20th. I was in attendance that day as well. And then I know there was the municipal consent on June 28th that we just also listened virtually. We followed that up by working in earnest to complete the study, and we submitted the draft version of the operations and safety report to town staff on August the 9th. And that is the final deliverable for task 5.1 to complete our services. Pleased to announce that we are all but complete with our work, with the only 5% remaining being within task number 5, the final report stage, and that would be to incorporate any edits, clear up any questions that you all might have from town staff and town council, incorporate that into the report to memorialize that, and then should the town council desire for us to participate in a town council meeting. That is it regarding to project progress. I can move forward to pass it over to Michelle if there's no questions. Okay,
Please.
Michelle, could you go ahead, please?
Yes. Hello and good afternoon. Thank you all for your time today. Before we get into the bulk of our presentation and our final findings, I do want to give a review of some of the material from the last committee meeting. We previously analyzed 4 alternatives which were intended to improve the operating conditions along US 278 between Moss Creek and Gumtree. After reviewing the findings and discussion with the South Carolina Department of Transportation, we were directed by the town of Hilton Head Island to pursue with Alternative 1, the SCDOT Modified Recommended Preferred, with additional modifications to provide a single eastbound left turn lane and a single southbound right turn lane at US 278 and Squire Pope. I'm going to refer to this as the Modified Alternative 1. We then evaluated the impacts Modified Alternative 1 would have on the entire project area and determined what, if any, improvements should be made to accommodate the 2045 forecasted traffic. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. This graphic illustrates the study area we evaluated under Task 4 with the roadways in purple. As you can see, we evaluated US 278 from Moss Creek to Indigo Run, as well as the Cross Island Parkway to the south towards Sea Pine Circle. We presented this table in the last committee meeting, but I wanted to share it again as a refresher. This table represents the travel times within the study area. These travel times were completed in VISM. Along US 278 between Moss Creek and Indigo Run, in the eastbound direction during the morning peak hour, the travel time is expected to improve by approximately 60%. The 2045 no-build travel time is expected to reach over 26 minutes, whereas the travel time under the Modified Alternative 1, again, this has no additional improvements east of Gumtree, is expected to be around 11 minutes. This is a reduction of about 16 minutes in the morning peak hour. In the PM peak hour along US 278 between Moss Creek and Indigo Run in the westbound direction, we are expecting that the travel times will also improve by about 60%. The 2045 no-build travel time is expected to reach nearly 26 minutes, whereas the travel time under the Modified Alternative 1 is expected to be around 10 minutes. This is also a reduction of about 16 minutes. Now along Hilton Parkway, beginning at Moss Creek and extending to the Cross Island Parkway at Sea Pine Circle, we are expecting that the southbound travel times would improve by about 30% in the morning peak hour. If you recall, we found that there was significant queuing and failing operations that were expected at Sea Pine Circle if no improvements were to be made, and that is showing in this travel time here. The overall reduction in travel time is still expected to be 10 minutes due to the improvements along US 278 west of Gumtree under the Modified Alternative 1, but we are not showing as significant of improvements in travel time when compared to the US 278 corridor, just due to those failing operations at Sea Pine Circle. You can please advance. All of this being said, overall, with no improvements in place east of Gumtree Road or along Cross Island Parkway, it was found that the travel times would significantly improve when compared to the 2045 no-build scenario. Overall, the intersections would be expected to operate acceptably. However, we did find, and again, this is still a refresher from our last meeting, that the eastbound and westbound approaches between Wilbourn Road and Pembroke Drive are expected to experience long queues and be over capacity in the year 2045. Additionally, we found that the existing roundabout at Palmetto Bay Road and Sea Pine Circle is expected to fail during both the AM and PM peak hours. And as a result, we found that the queue lengths are expected to extend beyond the nearby intersections. Therefore, we evaluated two options with potential solutions to the local intersections downstream of Gumtree Road and along Cross Island Parkway to help mitigate the expected long queues and delays. These two options offer potential solutions for the town of Hilton Head Island's consideration for future planning purposes. The first option we evaluated is option A. This option minimizes the physical impacts along the corridor, with additional improvements only recommended at one intersection along US 278 between Gumtree and Indigo Run, and that's at US 278 and Pembroke Drive. Option A evaluates reconfiguring the northbound approach to provide dual northbound left turn lanes, one through lane and one right turn lane. This allows us to give some additional signal time to the through movements on here to help mitigate some of the queuing. In addition to the roadway widening that would be required along the northbound approach, we'll also need to relocate the shared use path on the east side and make adjustments to the signal equipment, and there may be some additional right-of-way needed on the south leg. The estimated preliminary probable of opinion of cost is $750,000 for this, and the estimated construction duration is 4 months. And that is the only improvement under option A recommended along US 278 between Gumtree and Indigo Run. At Sea Pine Circle, we maintained the roundabout configuration to help keep the character of the intersection, but we did not find that we needed to expand it from a single lane, or we did find that we needed to expand it from a single lane roundabout to a 2-lane roundabout. In addition, each approach should have a right turn bypass with the exception of the eastbound approach, it's also known as the west leg, in order to maintain acceptable operating conditions. This will require some pavement widening on the inside of the traffic signal and on each of the 4 legs to accommodate the additional lane, bringing it from a single lane roundabout to a 2-lane roundabout. The estimated preliminary probable opinion of cost is $2 million, and the estimated construction duration is 8 months. We do have an image on the bottom right depicting what this roundabout could look like. As you can see, there would be 2 circulating lanes and a right turn bypass lane for all of the approaches except for the eastbound approach. And again, option A is intended to offer some potential solutions for your consideration. Thank you. The travel times for option A are shown in this table. As shown, the travel times along William Hilton Parkway between Moss Creek Drive and Indigo Run Drive are expected to improve by about 17.2 minutes during the AM peak hour in the eastbound direction, and by about 15.7 minutes during the PM peak hour in the westbound direction. The travel times along William Hilton Parkway at Moss Creek to the Cross Island Parkway at Sea Pine Circle are expected to improve by about 19.2 minutes during the AM peak hour in the southbound direction, and by 27 minutes during the PM peak hour in the northbound direction. And as a note, I'll offer a comparison of all of the travel times at the end of this presentation. Thank you. We have the operating conditions for some of the key intersections shown here. As you can see, the intersections overall would be expected to operate acceptably with a level of service C or better for each intersection. Some movements at the southbound approach at Pembroke are expected to experience failing conditions, as most of the cycle length is going to the through movements to help accommodate the heavy traffic volumes and mitigate those long queues we saw. However, those queue lengths are expected to be acceptable, and the approach overall would not be over capacity for that southbound at Pembroke. As shown here, even with the adaptive signals and the reconfiguration of the northbound approach at Pembroke Drive to allow more of the cycle length to go to the main line, long queues would still be expected between Gumtree Road and Pembroke Avenue. The maximum queue for the westbound approach at Jarvis Park / Wilbourn is expected to reach over 1,000 feet, which is a long queue. That being said, it's not expected that the maximum queue would extend into nearby intersections. The operating conditions for the two-lane roundabout at Sea Pine Circle are shown here. It is expected that the implementation of the two-lane roundabout with right turn bypass legs would significantly improve queuing and congestion. It also helps those nearby intersections at Target Road as well as Dunnigan's Alley. Now I'll offer a comparison again at the end, as I mentioned, but before we move on to option B, are there any questions regarding option A?
Any questions? Continue.
Okay, thank you. Option B considers a more significant approach to help mitigate the expected queue lengths along William Hilton Parkway between Gumtree and Pembroke, and it provides a separate solution for Sea Pine Circle. As shown, option B considers extending the 6-lane section from Gumtree past Pembroke. The 6-lane section could taper back to a 4-lane section at Central Avenue. In addition to the roadway widening that would be required, we will also need to adjust the shared use path on the north side of the road, provide new traffic signals at Wilbourn and Pembroke, as well as temporary construction easements and possibly new right-of-way. The estimated preliminary probable opinion of cost is $3 million, and the estimated construction duration is 6 months. In addition, option B also includes improvements at US 278 and Wilbourn Road, such as providing dual southbound right turn lanes. The roadway, in addition to the roadway widening, this will require adjustments to the shared use path on the east side of the road, temporary construction easements, and possibly new right-of-way as well. The estimated preliminary probable opinion of cost is $1 million, and the estimated construction duration is 4 months. Then lastly, we have the next slide. Option B considers signalizing Sea Pine Circle instead of the existing roundabout that is there today. With a signalized intersection, each approach would have a left turn lane, 2 through lanes, and a right turn lane, except for the eastbound approach, which would have dual left turn lanes. This configuration is pretty typical, and there's some intersections already with this configuration, so it would be, well known in the area. In addition to the roadway widening on each leg of the intersection to accommodate those turn lanes, this will also require adjustments to the shared use path on the east side of that south leg, new traffic signals, temporary construction easements, and new right-of-way on the north and west legs. The estimated preliminary probable opinion of cost is $6 million, and the estimated construction duration is 12 months. The travel times for option B are shown in this table. As shown, the travel time along William Hilton Parkway between Moss Creek Drive and Indigo Run Drive are expected to improve by about 17.4 minutes during the AM peak hour in the eastbound direction, and by about 16.5 minutes during the PM peak hour in the westbound direction. The travel times along William Hilton Parkway at Moss Creek to the Cross Island Parkway at Sea Pine Circle are expected to improve by about 19.4 minutes during the AM peak hour in the southbound direction, and by about 27 minutes during the PM peak hour in the northbound direction. Similar to option A, we have the operating conditions for some of the key intersections shown here. As you can see, the intersections overall would be expected to operate acceptably with a level of service D or better for each intersection. There are still a few movements, mostly left turn movements that are called out here, which would be expected to fail during the PM peak hour. This is because most of the cycle length is still going to the through movements to help accommodate those heavy traffic volumes and mitigate the queuing. You'll notice that the eastbound and westbound queues at Jarvis Park / Wilbourn Road and Pembroke are significantly lower than the queue lengths expected under option A. That's in the top right box, the westbound approach there. We go from about 1,000-foot maximum queue for the westbound approach in the PM peak hour to about 400 feet. This is where we see those benefits of extending the 6-lane section towards Central Avenue. The operating conditions for the newly signalized Palmetto Bay Road at Hilton Parkway are shown here. It is expected that the signalized intersection would operate well during both peak hours. The queue lengths are expected to be acceptable, and the nearby intersections are also expected to operate acceptably. So before I get into comparison of these results, are there any comments or questions regarding option B?
I don't see option B flying because Greenwood Avenue is owned by Sea Pines, and you have all the curb cuts for Riley's and everywhere else. And, you know, so Sea Pines owns right up to the circle or close to it within 50 feet. Now you've got a lot of right-of-way that you're taking. I don't see that a viable solution. Living in Sea Pines and in and out at least twice a day, option B is not a viable solution, in my opinion.
Any other comments? All right, continue.
Thank you. The final travel times, as calculated in VISM, are all shown in this table here for a comparison. Would you mind clicking once? I have a few things that will hopefully pop up here. Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm going to start with the eastbound direction along Hilton Parkway between Moss Creek and Indigo Run. As shown here in these circled boxes, the modified alternative 1 with no improvements to the downstream intersections is expected to have similar travel times when compared to both option A and option B. This is because even without improvements along US 278 east of Gumtree, traffic is expected to largely flow freely. We did note some long queues, but the adaptive signals are able to help keep traffic flowing. There are improvements to the travel times under options A and B as shown, but by only about 5 to 6%. The main benefit of options A and B is to mitigate the long queues between Gumtree and Pembroke, not necessarily to improve the travel times. Could you click twice for me then? Thank you. We see similar results for the westbound direction during the PM peak hour. Options A and B do improve the travel times along the corridor, but not significantly. Again, the main benefit of options A and B along US 278 west of Gumtree is to mitigate those long queues between Gumtree and Pembroke. Please click twice again. Thank you. However, that's not the case along Hilton Parkway from Moss Creek to Sea Pine Circle. As shown here, there's a clear improvement in travel times in the southbound direction during the AM peak hour. Both options A and B are expected to be significantly improved along this corridor with the mitigations in place for the existing roundabout. And then you can click twice more, thank you. The northbound direction in the PM peak hour is also expected to have improved travel times, albeit not as significant as the southbound direction in the morning. However, the improvements to Sea Pine Circle are expected to improve the entire area as well as nearby intersections as shown previously. So overall, neither option A nor option B is expected to have a meaningful impact on the travel times between Moss Creek and Indigo Run, but they are expected to have a meaningful impact from Moss Creek to Cross Island at Sea Pines. And the improvements noted under either option A or B at Sea Pines don't necessarily have to stick with the improvements noted along Hilton Parkway between Gumtree and Indigo Run. They can be combined or mixed, and you can kind of, they're simply for your consideration. Thank you. So to summarize everything, we were directed to pursue alternative 1, SCDOT, modified recommended preferred, with additional modifications to provide a single eastbound left turn lane and a single southbound right turn lane at William Hilton Parkway and Squire Pope Road. With the recommended improvements under the modified alternative 1 in place, the rest of the downstream intersections would be expected to operate acceptably overall. However, the eastbound and westbound approaches between Wilbourn Road and Pembroke Drive are expected to experience long queues in the year 2045, and the existing roundabout at Palmetto Bay Road and Sea Pine Circle is expected to fail during both the AM and PM peak hours. 2 additional options for mitigation, options A and B, are provided for the town of Hilton Head Island's consideration to help ease the congestion between Gumtree Road and Indigo Run Drive, as well as along the Cross Island Parkway towards Sea Pine Circle. It was found that physical improvements east of Gumtree would have a marginal impact on the travel times along William Hilton Parkway corridor between Moss Creek and Indigo Run, but they can improve key intersection performance and help reduce queuing. It was also found that improvements such as expanding the existing roundabout at Sea Pine Circle or signalizing the intersection would significantly improve the travel times along Cross Island Parkway and the operations of that intersection as well. Thank you all for your time. That's everything that I have today. I do appreciate the opportunity to share our final results with you, and we're happy to take questions.
Any questions? Diederik?
Yeah. Kate, thank you very much. I know that you and Lochmuller have put in a lot of time, but I still wonder, and I've asked it at various other meetings as well, that the simulation models are all relatively static. And yes, we saw the videos that you've put together on the various traffic streams, but to this date, I still believe that if you have a top-down view of the entire track and see the effects when you put in certain traffic volume numbers, vehicles per hours, etc., that is critical. And I'm kind of surprised that that was never done by Lochmuller or suggested by Lochmuller. And I think that the beauty of these models is that you can play with lots of variables. You can add an overpass, an underpass, you can add a by road, you can do all these things, and you can see directly what the effect is on the traffic flow. And so my question is, well, maybe you have done this, but we haven't seen it. And the second question is that I would think it'd be very useful for our town to have that ability to play around with a model like this. And I'm also looking at Jim, who's our traffic expert, for him to be completely proficient with some of these models is also going to add some value to managing traffic in general. But so my first question is really, why did that not happen?
We did perform a thorough analysis with all of the traffic volumes that we've shared with you all. It's been from, like you said, from a top down. It's been completely comprehensive. We went to great efforts to calibrate it to match what's out there today. And it's shared to your second point. I know you brought up at a couple different meetings that could we have almost like a working session, but we've also shared with you that that's a software that it's a very laborious software and time to work through, and that there'd be a lot of downtime. It'd be extremely inefficient. And then you combine the difficulties with it being remote, as that software is housed at a computer back in the Midwest. And just, if we were to watch Michelle to try that, it would not work well. So we have done everything that you've talked about. We provided videos, but the interactive workshop type setting, that's not something that can be done.
I don't think I get my point across. I mean, I've seen it, and I'm not a traffic expert, okay, but if you look at some of the modeling that people do, InfraWorks is one of them, and I guess Vissim and Synchro as well, you can actually put in your traffic volume. So let's say that I want to look at 3,000 vehicles per hour, I'm going to look at 4,000 vehicles per hour. Then I see what happens if I do an overpass, or if I don't do an overpass, or if I add a light or take a light away. Those are, you can see immediate results. And the results we see in your Vissim modeling do not show that. So, it's too late for that because it hasn't happened. But I would think for the town to be equipped with something like this, Mr. Mayor, is going to be very useful in the long run, because whenever this bridge happens, it's still helpful to see, for Jim's group, to look at it and say, hey, these are the effects. This is what happens if we do 2 lanes around the traffic circle, or 1 lane, or an overpass. All these elements you can either rule out or you can consider by doing this modeling. And I think, I'm disappointed that never was shown to the general public in general, but also never brought up here in our committees.
As we brought up at the initial meetings, is that Synchro is a software that, as you point out, there's different functions where you can toggle it, and you can see, or if you go from one turn lane to a second turn lane, and see, it automatically populates what the levels of service are at that intersection by itself from a cursory perspective. You can get a rough idea of what's happening. But when you're talking about a corridor study such as this, having this, and that's why we've done everything in Synchro, but then the ultimate findings that Michelle did that we feel the most confidence in is Visum, and that software is not, I can't speak to the other one besides Synchro that you mentioned, but that is not a software that can be done as quickly and toggle around and play with in a short amount of time. That's just not how it works. And Kate and Michelle, if there's anything else that I'm missing in that description, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. I think you got it right. You said it exactly right, and I would only add that. Can you guys hear me?
Sorry. Can you say it again?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Can you? Okay. Yeah, I would just add that, Dietrich, the iterative process that you're talking about is something that we definitely go through internally as a team, and we did that to come up with the 4 alternatives that we presented to you all for final consideration. Not only did we show you kind of our final solutions, but we spend a great deal of time internally going through other solutions as well. And, we presented to you guys what we thought was the most viable, and to present every minute iteration that we considered would have taken a lot of time and effort, and we wanted to try and have this be as concise and efficient as possible with respect to everybody's time in these committee meetings. So please rest assured that those iterations did happen internally with our traffic engineering professionals, and we brought the information that we felt was most pertinent forward to this committee for its consideration.
John, if I might ask a question, as these recommendations are brought forward today for future consideration, how will this information be utilized in the future?
Well, thanks for asking, sir. The town's also involved with a major thoroughfares corridor plan. We've done a deep evaluation of the entire William Hilton Parkway Gateway, or the entire William Hilton Parkway corridor, Palmetto Bay, Pope Avenue, some side streets, New Orleans, Arrow Road, Cross Island. We presented a couple of segments at a workshop a few months ago, and are planning in October, I think October 8th, workshop to talk about some additional segments of the corridor. As this report was coming in, and the option A and B, in particular as it relates to Palmetto Bay Road and Sea Pines, we were simultaneously getting information from our consultants that are working on the corridors plan. And I'm pleased to see that the 2-lane roundabout, there's a lot of similarities between both consultants. So this information will be another input that we utilize and bring forward to town council as potential mitigation or solutions to address traffic and transportation issues that we have here on the island. So this is just another input. We wanted to make sure that if there was some significant impacts that resulted from the decision on the Gateway Corridor project, whatever decision that ended up being. But right now, council's defined that project. That has informed these downstream evaluations, and so this will be another input that goes into that. As soon as this meeting is over, I'll provide this information to our other consultants as draft, and then plan to bring this forward to town council in September for them to accept the final report, and then utilize that to, again, help Jim and his team and our consultants bring forward and recommendations to council.
I think, Mayor, I just wanted to clarify one final point, is that just to reiterate that these are mitigation options for consideration, not recommendations. So particularly when it comes to the option B, when we mentioned the 6-lane factor, that is just more of providing you with data-driven solutions that if anybody were to ask, if it went to 6 lanes, what would it do? So we are not recommending doing that. These are just options for planning purposes.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions, comments?
So not sure, Jim, maybe you can answer this, how qualified you are, how comfortable you are with simulation models. Whether are you very comfortable? Are you familiar with some more than others, or?
I personally have not run a Vista model. I've run Synchro. All right. We do have somebody on staff that has 20, 25 years of working in a consultant firm that did nothing but traffic studies for 20, 25 years and is very proficient in these things. It is a matter of where we spend our resources here. And as the consultant says, these are very time-consuming, driven models, and it takes a lot of time. And when we're focusing on those things, we can't focus on other things. So it's simply a priority list of what it's most efficient. Is our internal time more efficient to do that, or is consultant time more efficient to do that?
So I would think that, and maybe this is slightly outside of the scope of this, but that the corridor study is not the only thing that Hilton Head will be faced with. It's also Sea Pine Circle, another, just the overall road system. And so I would think that what comes out of this meeting is that, you know, for the town of Hilton Head to have the internal capability to work with these models, and you have consultants, but we also need to know, we need to be critical of what is being offered. And I think I still see this big gap that we had in the Lochmuller study with the simulation. But that's water under the bridge, as they say. But I would think that one of the recommendations from this committee would be that, you know, build up, strengthen the capacity to deal with this kind of stuff. Not through a consultant, but to have the internal.
Right. That would be a question we'd have to run through council and the town manager because of the cost associated with bringing that technology in-house, which I would imagine is fairly expensive.
These models are not expensive. It's more acquiring the knowledge too.
Okay. Continue.
I think that completes the update on the final two items. Again, if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them. But the final item on the agenda.
So prior to that, I think I'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Lydia, do we have anybody sign up for public comment?
Yes, we have one public comment form submitted by Ms. Melinda Tunner.
Tunner?
Good afternoon. I do have some comments regarding the alternatives that you presented, both A and B. The priority items of the focus should be on making improvements from the Cross Island to the Sea Pine Circle. I appreciate the review of the two alternatives, expanding the circle or signalizing the area. But traffic circles are part of the island charm. I can remember coming here as a visitor from the Midwest a long time ago, and it was the first time I ever experienced a traffic circle. And so when I think of Hilton Head, I think of traffic circles. Even though it's a technique used in other areas, it feels like part of our island's signature. The improvements from signalization are not significant enough to consider removing the circles, and Mr. Warner talked about additional issues in regards to right-of-way and ownership. In regards to the alternatives on the north end of the island, I don't want to see an increase from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. There isn't a significant improvement in traffic flow. It adds additional concrete and impervious surfaces and adds to the story of William Hilton Parkway becoming the William Hilton Expressway. I also had a few questions regarding next steps in the process since municipal consent has been given. And so I have a few of those. When is Beaufort County expected to vote on the MOA, which has the town's expectations regarding a number of significant items? How will the town organize its resources and the public around this work with the county? What will be the mechanism to keep the public informed? And will future decisions that are made by the town council be part of the public town council process? Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing that we have a small crowd, I'll go ahead and open it up for anybody else that would like to make a comment at this time. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back for the presentation and acceptance of the final report.
Again, sir, we've given you a copy of the final report. It was in the packet. Everything that's in the report was presented over the course of several months, other than the information presented today. We'll be able to answer any additional questions you have, but ask the committee to move to accept the report, and we'll move it on to council for their review.
Okay. So before we go to the motion to accept, are there any, well, let's go ahead. Is there a motion to accept the final report?
I move we accept the final report from Lockmuir.
Is there a second? Seeing none, I will pass the gavel to Mr. Warner, and I will make the second. I'll take the gavel back.
Okay, have it back.
Any questions or comments?
Well, I want to thank Lochmuller for all the work they did. I feel a little cheated on the way the process has taken place in the town, and with the last meetings that we've had. I hope that the town will change its approach and not keep people here for 6 hours and get to the core of business rather than do all the window dressing before that in the hopes that people would leave. I think that there are still a lot of elements in this study that haven't been fully explored. I don't know why it wasn't pushed harder. The widening of the bridge, the repair of the bridge, transportation issues that haven't, public transportation issues that really have not been fully explored. So I'm appreciative of the work that's been done by Nate and Kate and the rest of the team. I mean, you spend a lot of hours, and you have been getting a lot of comments from people, including myself, and that is because we are passionate about it and we care for our island. I think it's just a shame that the town made a decision prior to the study having been finished to begin with, but apparently they were so eager to move forward with it. So I think there are a lot of how should I put it? A lot of, I would think, faults with the process, and I hope that the town will improve the way they handle things and be transparent about things. So, and I also thank Sean for the hours of work and Jim and others, because it does take a village. But I'm just disappointed overall with the end result.
Any other comments?
I have a comment. I hope going forth that those people that the decision didn't go their way aren't going to take their bat and go home and sulk. That they step up and say, okay, we're one island, we're one people, and it didn't go my way, but we got to get this done for the future. And, to sit back and complain, it doesn't move it forward. And additionally, it's already been accepted by town council. So this is the final report that it is our job. Put aside all your differences. It's our job to say, yes, this is the final report from a fine firm that spent a lot of time in the Lockmuir Group. We appreciate their efforts, and we accept it. We may not agree with it, but we accept it as the final report. And that's the key. It's the final report that we must accept because town council has already said we're going forth. Thank you.
Charles?
Yeah, I just want to echo Diedrich's sentiments. No sense of me repeating all what he said, but the one thing I was concerned about is that I do not think there was enough time spent on the actual crossing, the bridges out there. Excuse me. We were left with what was discussed, 11 lanes of ribbon of concrete. I'm still of the opinion, and I actually attended a webinar yesterday where they were talking about the lifespan of bridges. 75 years is an approximate lifespan for a standard bridge. I don't know what the age of these are, but they're 40 to 50 years old, I'm thinking, right? And the chart that they showed actually showed the lifespan of a bridge starts with something brand new and then starts deteriorating to the point where you take a rehabilitation point, and then that goes down to the point where 75 years hence from the beginning, a replacement takes place. Okay, it was interesting to see. I don't know why this couldn't be done here, given all of the things that are wrong with these bridges. I mean, there's one that's bad, but the others need to be rehabilitated also. I spoke about widening as an alternative. I also considered the fact that there's existing 36 feet of lane width there now. Is there anything we could do to utilize that in a better way? But it seems like none of those comments were really addressed, or at least taken seriously. So that's one of the reasons I'm kind of down on this whole procedure of what we did here. Anyway.
Charlie, the study does contain, what we try to do is include all of a lot of those interim deliverables that we provided to you, so that there's one
meeting. I wasn't here for that one meeting that it was explained.
Right. So there's a comprehensive document in there, but to your point, the key is that the existing bridges, yes, they're 50 years old, and we could do structural rehabilitation. However, none of them have any type of seismic. They don't meet the seismic design requirements.
The point is, seismic could be dealt with.
But the cost to do that was, what our opinion was.
I still question the cost. No, in fact, I had asked for a breakdown of those costs, and I think you mentioned that it was troublesome to get that information.
The DOT's design team, they provided costing for the structural rehabilitation. They did not do the cost for the seismic retrofitting. And as I stated, I don't think that was for nefarious reasons. I think that the delta, just from the structural itself, as compared to just building new, the numbers that stand out to me were maybe $240 million to structurally rehabilitate, whereas $178 million to build a new 6-lane structure. But that $240 million did not include the cost to seismically retrofit an existing bridge that would have a lower lifespan than a brand new bridge.
How many other bridges in the state of South Carolina are seismically deficient?
I can't speak to that, sir. I just know that I've been told that any new bridge or any retrofits have to include seismic retrofits moving forward.
And all right, so if that money could be spent now, and then 25 years from now, it could be replaced, or so they could be replaced. That was the case. I don't know.
But we provided a summary memo, and then all of the slides, Charlie, that you weren't there, that summarizes all of our finds. And then I can provide you with the seismic study that the DOT gave us if you'd like to look at that as well.
Well, I appreciate everything that y'all have done and gone through during this entire process. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of recommendations, a lot of questions, a lot of information provided within the report. And I've got to agree with Mr. Warner, whether you agree with this report or not, it is the final report. And if we come out of here without an approval of it being the final report, I imagine it'll still go to council. And council will have a presentation and will also make their own recommendation. But it would be nice to have the committee say that this is the final report. We accept it as the final report, whether you agree with it or not. So with that being said, I will put up a vote. All those in favor of accepting it, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion fails, so this committee does not recommend acceptance of this as the final report.
Sad.
Any new business? All right. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you.